Hey again, this is Simba. Welcome back to another episode of the Lions Den Crypto, where we're just going to be talking about some of the major market moving news and some insights, and also breaking down some charts in the world of crypto. Right now, just to kick it off, I saw this tweet and I was just so happy to see it. Right today, Ross Ulbricht, founder of the Silk Road Marketplace, received 300 Bitcoin in his donation wallet, which is phenomenal. Now, say what you may, but Ross has been, he's been a pillar in the adoption of Bitcoin. Right, Silk Road. I don't think we would have seen such a humongous mass adoption. Right, so many people would have never even touched Bitcoin if it wasn't for the Silk Road. Right now, he did get sentenced for being that early person taking that risk. Right, with Bitcoin and creating this marketplace that ended up being, where people started to sell drugs and do some other nefarious things. But for him, he just created a platform and he saw Bitcoin as that, that internet currency. Right, and he was sentenced to jail for this thing. So with that said, man, say what you may, to see him free, I think it's a great sign for freedom. Right now, we're seeing all kinds of applications, right? We're seeing all kinds of people and institutions now buying Bitcoin and transacting with Bitcoin. And this is the exact same thing that Ross went to prison for, right? So to see him really come out from jail and Trump really freeing this man, I thought this was phenomenal, right? And to see him in Las Vegas as a free man talking about Bitcoin and kind of reminiscing about the early days, I thought this was great. This was bullish. And for the community really to rally behind him and donating him some Bitcoin, especially after serving all these years in prison, right? For him to start his life all over again. I thought this was phenomenal. So big shout out to Ross, man. You're an inspiration to a lot of people. And I don't think we would have seen such mass adoption, or at least at this level, without his work and kind of, him pioneering, pretty much internet money, right? Which is Bitcoin. So big shout out to him. Now, this was now let's step into some other market moving news. Right now, this one was kind of crazy. I'm a trader myself, but to be a trader, you must have big balls. But there's just levels to the amount of big balls that some traders have. Now, this one is an interesting story. Now, crypto's most washed whale gets fully liquidated after placing billions in risky bets. Now, James Wayne. Right, that's the trader's name. A trader known for his high-risk, high-reward moves on Hyperliquid has been fully liquidated. Now, Wayne ended up with just about $23. It might be lower than this at this point, right, in his account, but his downfall really began with a $1.25 billion long on Bitcoin that led to a $37 million loss after prices had dropped. So he definitely got this one wrong, right? He definitely got this one wrong, but oh my goodness. Oh my goodness is all I can say. This guy is absolutely insane for taking this level of risk. But at the same time, you have to have that kind of capital. What got him the money that he got is from taking risk, right? He would have never even had this kind of money to even bet with if he didn't take these kinds of risk, right? There's different levels of this. Now, if it would have worked out well for him, everybody would have been like, he would have got all the praise and he would have got all this. But now, since that trade went against him, everybody's against him, right? Now they're calling him all kinds of different names. You weren't calling him names when he was winning. You know what I'm saying? But with that said, man, somebody like this is probably not going to stay down for very long. But as you can see for Bitcoin, let's drop down to the lower levels. Right. Actually, let's just start at the weekly. The weekly, we just saw Bitcoin, right? It just broke that previous high and has retraced just a little bit, right? And let's just go down to the daily so we can have a closer look. So Bitcoin had this resistance about $109,000, and it recently broke it and going to making new all-time highs, which is about $112,000. So this was the long that my guy took, but it definitely went against him, right? Which is definitely a short-term trade, but it broke down. It started to retrace back down and really killed James in that aspect, right? I think we're going to be just fine for Bitcoin, especially if you look at the longer-term horizon, right? We're right on schedule, right? Especially that 50 moving average, right? Is holding Bitcoin really, really tight. So we have a lot of room to grow. But there's always that danger of taking short-term trades with high leverage, right? Because the market can definitely go against you. And if you're going 40x leverage, there's going to be some pain. If it would have worked out for him, he would have been a legend. Right. It's probably how he even got to this point, by taking those kinds of trades. But when it doesn't work for you, it really, really ends up hurting. So look, man, big shout out to him. And just looking at his tweet right after that, he says he's going to run this back, and he always does. So more power to him. And I actually think that he's going to continue and probably make more trades. But yeah, there's a danger of making these trades public. Anyways, it's in the blockchain, right? It's right on Hyperliquid, so everybody can see his trades, and especially him letting the whole world know. So there's some good and some bad that comes along with it. All right, now kind of jumping on to the next story. So Bored Apes creator Yuga Labs unloads Moonbird as IP sell-off continues. Right, Bored Apes. Yuga Labs is the creator around Bored Apes, which is the top. I think it's the top NFT collection, man. You know what I'm saying? Okay, you got the punks. But Bored Apes as well are definitely highly favored in the whole of Web3, man. They've done some phenomenal things and really pioneered a lot of things for NFTs, especially coming up with their own blockchain, right? Which is the ApeCoin, and creating a metaverse around it as well, right? These guys are doing phenomenal work, but with that, there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of money that they made from the NFTs, and also from the token sale and all these things, and all the other things that they've built around Bored Apes Yacht Club, right? So they had all this money, and they were able to buy some of the premier NFT collections, such as Moonbirds, and also punks as well. So big shout out to them. But Yuga Labs, creator of the high-profile Bored Apes Yacht Club collection, has sold the Moonbirds intellectual property to a gaming startup. Now, this gaming startup is going to take over the IP and really start to do some amazing things with them, right? And amid the NFT market meltdown. So since 2020, the NFT market absolutely boomed in 2020, right? The NFT craze was absolutely insane, but we have seen the NFT market really crumble, just like the rest of the market, right? Not just NFTs. We were in a bear market for quite some time, right? And a lot of collections went from selling from millions of dollars to a couple of thousands of dollars, right? But the NFT studio also sold the popular CryptoPunks as well. So they went and offloaded the IP for Moonbirds and also for CryptoPunks. And those are some of the most premier NFT collections, right? The Bored Ape Yacht Clubs, CryptoPunks, right? And also the Moonbirds IP. But I think this is good because it gives them a chance to focus on their core values and their core things that they're building, which is the Bored Apes Yacht Club, right? And they're also ApeCoin, right? And they're also the metaverse around the ApeCoin. So I think this is good. Focused founders and focused teams tend to have a higher rate and a higher chance of success. So I see this as a good thing, right? I see this as a good thing for the teams to really be laser focused on what their core offerings are. So big shout out to Yuga Labs. I don't understand all the FUD that's happening. I think this is actually a really, really good thing that is going on. So yes, again, man, Bored Apes, these guys are phenomenal, a phenomenal team. Keep your eyes out on them. I think they're going to be here for a long time, right? They're going to be here for a long time, and I'm actually looking forward to other side, the metaverse that they're creating. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. All right, now let's take a look at ApeCoin, right? The token for Yuga Labs, Bored Apes, and the metaverse, other side. So these guys they started out, they kicked off in about 2022, where ApeCoin was launched, and they did phenomenal numbers, right? Reaching all-time highs to about $40. Now, the market, right? The market did correct. This was not the only token that went down, right? This includes Bitcoin, Ethereum, everything else during the bear market. And they went from, about $40, and now they're currently sitting about 5 cents. But I think they're going to, this is probably for me buying at the bottom, right? This team continues to build. They continue to be laser focused. This you wouldn't want to buy here. Let me tell you why. You don't buy at the top. The whole game is to buy low and sell high. And looking at the current market cap and kind of how much they have retraced, I think this will be a good buying opportunity, right? For especially to continue to see them continue to build and really push and ship product out there. ApeCoin, I think, is right there as one of my top tickers that I'm paying attention to really see this enormous growth, right? So big shout out to the team at Yuga Labs, man. I think they're doing a phenomenal job, and they should continue doing what they are. Absolutely, 1000%. Now, with that said, let's take a look at the next story, right? Sui community passes governance vote to recover stolen Cetus funds blocked by validators in the $223 million heist. Now, a governance vote to unlock Cetus assets previously stolen by a hacker received 90% approval from the Sui community. Cetus intends to restart its platform in a week after using frozen attacker funds and cash token reserves to reimburse losses from the incident. Now, if you don't know what Cetus is, let me just pull it up over here. If you don't know what Cetus is, they are pretty much an on-chain trading platform, right? Think something of a Hyperliquid, except it's on the Sui network. Now, it recently had a hack, right? And the community and the validators, voted to block these funds, right? Now there was some concerns about, this whole talk about decentralizations for blockchain, right? But when a hack like this happens, validators can choose to kind of remove those funds or return those funds to where they were. And sometimes this is where the whole decentralization, conversation really goes off, right? But anyways, with that, I think Sui is a great platform. They have a lot of money behind them, right? You have some big names in the space, such as Raul Paul, right? Really pushing for Sui, talking about Sui and all that. And they also have that Facebook Meta right behind them, right? So there's a lot of good things for Sui. But at the same time, is it decentralized? Is it, it's probably not as decentralized as Bitcoin. You can't just, even whatever stolen funds that they are, there's no, nobody, if you lose your Bitcoin, you lose your Bitcoin. right? But for Sui and some of the other blockchains, they've been able to revert this, right? And there's also concerns and just talks about, just it being a centralized chain. But yeah, that's a whole different conversation, right? But yeah, stop the villains. I'm all for stopping villains from stealing people's money, but at the same time, there's this whole ethos of decentralization, which also has pros and cons to it, right? So anyways, that was the community did vote 90%, which is very, very overwhelming to return those funds. So yeah, so keep your eyes on Sui, man. I think Sui is going to be one of those blockchains that is going to be do some phenomenal numbers, and we've seen Sui do phenomenal numbers, right? Coming from the beginning or just the middle, about October of 2023, they kind of bottomed about 38 cents, but they have been on an incredible rise, right? Coming from about 38 cents, and now they're currently sitting at about $3, $3.50. They actually touched $5 not too long ago towards the end of the year, right? And again, I know we've talked about this before. When you look at Sui and you look at Solana, you can even say the Sui chart is looking better than the Solana chart, right? I think they're going to do great. I think they're going to do phenomenal. They just, again, they have a really there's a lot of money marketing behind them. There's a lot of big names behind Sui. They're a fast blockchain. They're doing all the things right, really, to compete, and their chart is looking very, very good. Like this, it's only a matter of time till we break out from Sui and really push for all-time highs, right? And Solana is just right there, lagging right behind them. There's going to be we're going to see a competition between Sui and Solana, and this is starting to get louder and louder. So I'm all for competition, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But yeah, Sui is definitely one of my top plays as well. Community is strong. Momentum is strong. So they definitely have a bright future, regardless of the conversations around this whole debacle that happened with the hack and how the validators have decided to do what they did, right? Big shout out to the Sui gang. They're doing some incredible things. Now, for the second to last story of the day, Trump continues to buy Bitcoin at an incredible rate. I think soon we're going to start to see Michael Saylor versus Trump to see how much Bitcoin these individuals are going to buy. Right now, Trump media raises $2.4 billion to launch Bitcoin Treasury, which is phenomenal, right? So we're seeing there was just another story a couple weeks ago where he raised more money. So he's continuing to raise money, Trump and the Trump family, to buy more Bitcoin, and they closed this 2.4 billion sale this past Friday of stock and convertible notes that will be used to fund a Bitcoin treasury, right? And the funds will be used to buy up BTC for other general corporate purposes, and also working capital as well. Now, the president's media company has aggressively expanded into crypto via several initiatives in recent months. We've seen this with Wilf, right? We've seen Trump again, with his Trump meme coin, and we've seen him create NFTs. We've seen that DeFi platform that he's created. The Trump family is all in on crypto and Bitcoin, right? Which is phenomenal to see, and he's really pushing for Bitcoin to have a national reserve to be a national reserve asset in the USA, right? So he definitely has a stake in the game. He has stake in the game himself with his own money. His own family has stake in the game, right? And he's also pushing for the US as well to be a part of this, because look, man, Bitcoin is here to stay. Bitcoin is here to stay, and we might as well jump in before everybody else does, right? So keep your eye on this. Keep your eye on this for sure. I think this is going to be some incredible development, and it's very interesting to see. I think there's going to be a competition to see who's going to buy more Bitcoin. Is it going to be Trump, or is it going to be Michael Saylor? Right. Of course, the Trump and Trump media, they have quite a long way to catch up to Michael Saylor's Bitcoin. But there's definitely a race. If you don't think there's a race to acquire and accumulate Bitcoin, it's right in front of you, and it's happening in real time. Right. So with that, guys, this story over here, this is going to be the final story of the day. I thought this one was very interesting, right? Now, Central African Republic to tokenize land using national Solana meme coin. Now, a couple months ago, just when Trump had released his meme coin, and also other presidents as well, right? From Argentina, right? The president of Argentina also released a meme coin. We just saw all these leaders of sovereign states release meme coins, and Central African Republic was one of them, right? The CAR token. Now, Central African Republic will tokenize over 1,700 hectares of land using its national meme coin CAR. The president Trudeau said this past Thursday, right? And starting in June, more than 1,700 hectares of land west of the capital of Bangui, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, will be tokenized and sold online using the CAR token via the Solana blockchain. Now, the president decree cites the country's mining code and tokenization laws, indicating the land may be designed for mining activities such as gold or diamond extraction. Now, this is incredible. So, what you're telling me is that I may be, or anybody really, not just myself, but anybody, you saying you can own some shares of land that will be mining gold and it's only going to be sold through the token itself, hey, I'm telling you, this region has some of the most gold reserves, right? And you know, potentially having shares into this might be something that is absolutely insane, right? It's something that is yeah. It's going to be. I think it's going to be an opportunity, right? I think it's going to be an opportunity. But even with that, it's really cool to see some of these leaders really start to, you know, adopt cryptocurrency, right, and start innovating it, right? Start to experiment with it, and especially some of these third world countries, right? I don't think there's really much to lose, right? And we already know it's the future. And the president of CAR, you know, he's all into Bitcoin, right? I think he's in the same thinking and stance as the president of Argentina and also Trump as well, right? You know, big shout out to them. There's not a lot of leaders have really jumped in or actually really understand Bitcoin and this digital revolution. And I think the president of Central Republic of Congo, oh, sorry, Central Republic, the president of Central African Republic, it really understands this, right? So big shout out to them. This is definitely one to keep your eyes on, right? And with that, this was his decree on Twitter, right? I have signed a presidential decree to tokenize over 1,700 hectares of land in Central African Republic, and starting June, land concessions will be accessible online using card directly on Solana, right? And this is tokenization, right, of real world assets. This is absolutely crazy. Now, if you want to be a part of this, you can go down to the carmemecoin.com, and yeah, you can buy a car right there, and you might be able to own some land, right? That might go. Just saying, right? So keep your eyes on Central African Republic, man. I think this is going to be phenomenal. I'm so interested and intrigued to see how this comes out. Yeah, I'm gonna get some. I'm just saying, I'm gonna get some. With that, let's take a look at the token and how it's performing, right? Especially after this announcement. So here we are. Here's the token, right? It initially launched right in February, right, of 2025. So just the beginning of this year, and went all the way to about close to $1, right? And of course, just like the rest of the meme coins, we know how it goes. You know, token comes out, flies to the moon, then comes crashing down as people just take profits, right? But it did kind of bottom out right around 0.008 cents, right? And it's looking like it's an uptrend, right? And I think, you know what, with the bull market coming, and especially with this announcement and news, don't be surprised if we at the least go back to the all-time highs, right? And that's a really good, that's a couple X's right there, right? That's a couple X's that you can multiply. But I think it's going to create a lot of demand for this token when you're able to, you know, purchase some of this land in Central African Republic, right, with this token. I think it's going to absolutely explode. I think it's going to absolutely explode. But this is not financial advice. But guys, with that said, stay bullish. I think we're heading into the greatest bull market. You guys have been hearing me say this over and over again, right? We're headed into one of the greatest bull markets. We're seeing institutions get in, right? We're seeing presidents get into blockchain, right? We're seeing, you know, your favorite banks, whether it's Chase, JP Morgan. It seems like everybody, their mother and grandma, are talking about Bitcoin, are talking about digital assets, and we're going to see numbers that we have never seen before, because we have trillions of dollars from pension funds, right? From institutions, from all kinds of different places, right? And you know what? The thing that at least that I understand for sure, is government is addicted to printing money, right? They're like on crack cocaine right now, right? And as governments continue to print money, scarce assets such as Bitcoin will continue to rise, right? So with that said, guys, stay bullish, keep going, keep stacking. See you later. Take care. Much love. Bye-bye.